Oh no, please don't. Yoo-hoo, and thanks for tuning in to another cult horror movie review. It's movies like Clive Barker's Hellraiser, which reinforces my opinion that 80s horror is the best horror. How could I not talk about this? Being unhappy with the way his works were being adapted to the screen, Barker decided to direct the next project himself. After the screenplay that he wrote for Rawhead Rex flopped big time, he definitely redeemed himself with this piece of horror, with a little dash of fantasy. But just before we get going, if there's a cult horror movie you'd like me to review, leave me a comment down below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and let me know your thoughts and feelings on Hellraiser. The story follows a couple, Larry and Julia, who move into a new house. Don't a lot of horror movies start like that? We find out Julia had an affair with Larry's brother, some trailer trash psycho named Frank. How could she fall in love with a guy like that? Frank gets involved with some weird magic stuff. He buys a box that summons up sadomasochistic demons from another dimension who make it a specialty of theirs to torture, in the most horrendous ways possible, those who summon them up. In fact, the working title of this cult classic was originally Sadomasochists from Beyond the Grave, but that sounds pretty stupid if you ask me. I'm glad they changed it. All the Cenobites, as they're called, are terrifyingly mesmerizing. One with the chattering teeth, the one named Butterball, the one with the throat cut open, and of course, the lead Cenobite, the iconic Pinhead, which all horror fans will recognize. It's all the more interesting because, to my surprise, he doesn't appear that much during the runtime. It's not like in other movies like Halloween or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where the evil figure really is the central point of the story. No, here the focus is more on Julia and her affair, and then on her daughter-in-law, Kirsty. For a budget of $1 million, I am impressed to see that the actors are pretty decent. I found Ashley Lawrence to be memorable in her role as Kirsty, as well as Oliver Smith as the Bloody Frank was also pretty good. But you want to know the real star of the movie, in my opinion? He doesn't even show up, but it's makeup artist Bob Keane, who did a phenomenal job on the look of the Cenobites. Seriously, look at these ghastly things. He also did good for this awful looking monster known as the Engineer in the novels, and the gore effects. Man oh man, this film is full of blood and it's not shy to show it. There's definitely a little bit of H.P. Lovecraft in the works of Barker. I say this because of the grotesque and revolting creatures that are featured. Those otherworldly monsters that are beyond people's comprehension. They translate to another world which mankind can't even begin to acknowledge. I had a very good time watching Hellraiser. This one really does raise hell, and it's a truly impressive exercise in fright, all while tackling themes of sexual depravity and pain. This flick gave birth to 9 sequels, with the law of diminishing return unfortunately reinforcing itself for each new entry. But the first sequel doesn't look bad, and it makes me want to watch it, because if there's one reproach I do have against Hellraiser, is that it not only raises hell, but also more questions than answers. I didn't get much lore and much origin story about where this magic box came from, and how it was used, and why the Cenobites. I saw there was a 2022 remake which was pushed out on Hulu, and Clive Barker served as producer. If any of you have seen it, I wouldn't mind getting some feedback on if it's any good or not. On that note, if you're a horror fan, I highly recommend Hellraiser. It's a classic and a good time.